Now today I've got a Yagi for us to take a look at. It's 2.4 gigahertz for Wi-Fi. It's not a new one. I bought it off a seller off eBay. He got this with a load of other stuff. He's not a seller on eBay who sells antennas or RF equipment. This was just something he had in a box of other things that he acquired. And what I can tell you about this, it's Polish. The writing on here is Polish. Doesn't tell you a great deal about the antenna though, so I'm not quite sure the dB of this at the moment. I'll get a better idea when we open this up to take a look inside. It does have a gold N-type connector on there. You don't see many gold ones, but it's not going to make any difference to the performance of this antenna. It does look like it's been used. I would say this is from the middle of the 2000s. It's not a new antenna. And Poland, back in the day of early Wi-Fi homebrew stuff, they really led the way in the homebrew stuff. There was a lot of good ideas coming out of Poland at one time. You know, just making Wi-Fi antennas out of general junk that you could find laying around. It's got a nice bracket with it, really heavy duty bracket. This bracket doesn't look like it's being outside, exposed to the weather here in the UK. Another bracket there to fix it to a scaffolding pole or something like that, and screws, so you can screw this main bracket on the back there. You can see it's going to be a PCB design, and that little indicator just lets you know whether you're mounting it in the horizontal or the vertical. But as I say, at the moment it's a bit of an unknown. Now, I didn't pay too much for this. The guy accepted my best offer. I think I paid £24. The shipping was free. So before we try and get into this, so we can see what's going off on the inside, because it's always nice to have a Yagi, and sometimes it's where the ideas come from. I mean, it'd be really interesting to see what kind of balun they're using in this, the design, the size of the driven elements, and the size of the parasitic elements, for instance. And I prefer to actually build Yagis using PCB and etching. It's just a lot easier. But let's hook this up to the network analyzer, see what it looks like on there before we try and work out how we're going to get into this. I think that's going to be the hardest bit, but yeah, let's hook it up and take a look at the output on the network analyzer. So here's the Yagi on the test bench then, and we're getting a really nice output on the network analyzer. So here we are on the network analyzer, and I'm scanning from 1 gigahertz over here up to 3 gigahertz over here, and I've done that just to show how wide this frequency response is. It's a lovely wide frequency response, and I was looking at a Yagi the other day that somebody built and claimed worked on the 4G LTE, and you know, this is one of the reasons people like Yagi so much, is because they can be quite wide in its frequency of operation. But we've got the cursor on 245 gigahertz there, which is perfect for Wi-Fi, but the dip is all the way down here at 228 gigahertz there, and then we can move it along, and we're at 2 gigahertz there, and we keep moving, and we're still in this quite nice response dip here, and we're at 2 gigahertz there, and we can move it along 1.8 gigahertz there. So yeah, it's really wide in its frequency of operation. It's going to work really well for Wi-Fi here, which is what it's sold to me as. But yes, it's typical for a Yagi, quite a wide frequency response. That's, I suppose, why people love them. Now I've just got to find out how to get into this, and it seems to be pretty secure. I don't really want to damage it in any way, because I want to give this away to one of the Patreons if anybody wants it over there. But I have got some of this tubing if I need to replace that, but I think it's best if I try and get in at this end first, and then it'll give me an idea. It's probably not glued in, it's probably just you know, held in with friction, forced in there, but we'll see. So as you can see, I'm working away at it, and I want to try and get into this without damaging anything on the inside, but because it looks like the Yagi, the PCB part here, is actually glued into this slot here. It's pulling it this way as I'm trying to get this cap off here, so I don't want to damage anything on the inside, but I can always repair it afterwards. But you can see they've used some glue as well, and it's quite old stuff. It looks like some kind of epoxy, and it's just aged. It's just crumbling away. So I'm just going to keep working away at it, but I might end up damaging the board itself trying to get this out. So I've got the end cap off. Wasn't too bad really, but I assumed, as I've been saying, that this was a PCB, and that's the edge of the PCB material there, but it's not. It's a line that's drawn in there, and inside we have actually got a metal Yagi. Now, as you can see, I did end up having to cut it. We've got quite a big lump of what looks like Delron in there, and it's glued in as well, so there was no way I was going to force that out of there. But now we can see the Yagi in all its glory, and first of all I'm attracted to this main driven element here, which is a folded dipole. And see that? Now, I've made Yagis with this kind of element before, very early videos going back to 2013, and I have mentioned in previous videos as well that Yagis, I wasn't really attracted to them. I didn't spend a lot of time studying them or making them, and this is a similar kind of design that I built very early on in this channel's history, and from this I can see that it's got no balun, and that's something that a lot of people in the comments of my early Yagis were saying, you know, without a balun it's going to have a lot of reflections, etc. VSWR is going to be bad. But this one is the same. This one's got no balun, and I was copying early designs as well in those videos where this kind of folded arrangement with the main driven element didn't need a balun. So I haven't measured the VSWR of this, so I'm tempted now to take it back over to the test bench and measure its VSWR just to see, you know, if it's really high. I mean, Yagis have a quite tendency to have a quite high VSWR anyway, but if this goes into the 2s, then yeah, it's going to be pretty poor with the reflections as far as transmitting with this antenna is concerned. So here we are then looking at the VSWR, and this is the area that we are interested in. This wavy line, it's just that's out of its band altogether. Just ignore that. If I cut it off there, then this would look almost quite flat, so we see a little bit more detail when I have it on the screen like this. But anyway, I digress. This is 2.49 gigahertz there. So take it down to 245, and there's 245, and you can see the VSWR is 2, and that's completely rubbish. It's going to be really good as a receiving antenna, but as a transmitting antenna, yeah, it's not going to cause damage to your equipment, but it's not going to be the best. And we can see that virtually in all of that Wi-Fi band, it's pretty poor at 2. It does get a little bit better in there. We've got it on 2.2 gigahertz there. We've got a 1 to 3 VSWR, which is pretty good, but then it starts to climb really steeply again. So yeah, I have to admit that a lot of those early videos that I did on this channel, but again, it's part of learning. You do really need a balun when you're constructing a Yagi if you want it to transmit as well as receive. So looking at this Yagi then, VSWR aside for the moment, its construction does have a bit of a homemade feel to it. I mean, they've isolated the main driven element and spaced it out as well using these pieces of plastic and hot glue. Nothing wrong with that at all, but it's definitely got a homemade feel to it. As I said, this is Polish writing on here, so I presume it's a Polish company. But looking at the main driven element, you can see where they've got that extra bandwidth from with the thickness of this copper here, rather than using, you know, a like a piece of wire, for instance, even a, you know, a thickish wire like 1.5 millimeters, because it's quite wide. That's where we've got that extra bandwidth from. But you can see the homemade feel to it, where we've got these pieces of plastic and hot glue here to space the main driven element out and stop it from shorting out to the main boom. So yeah, VSWR aside, it's quite a nice little Yagi. So now we're zoomed in, and I've got my doubts about this coax, whether it's going to be any good. The weave just does not look tight enough. But there again, to be fair, this is from around 2002, probably 2004. Getting hold of really good coax in Europe and the UK back then was really difficult. You really did pay through the nose for a decent low loss coax here in the UK, I know anyway. Not so much in the States. That's where a lot of the companies that make it are, but yeah, you can see as well, because they haven't cleaned up after the soldering job, and with this being copper, you've got the corrosion that's set in. Even though this was pretty watertight, water ingress hasn't caused this. It's because they've left you know, all the flux etc. haven't cleaned up, and that corrosion has slowly creeped into the coax. You can see the yellow in here. I mean, it's hopefully it's showing up on camera. It's a lot more pronounced here with my eye, but it goes all the way back here. So yeah, they've let themselves down, but I don't know, what can you say, a 20-year-old antenna almost. I suppose it's not too bad really, but if they'd have cleaned up the job here, it would have lasted a lot longer. Now my intention was to basically make a PDF of the measurements of this, which I have, and I've linked it below, and give this to one of my Patreons. But I think what I'm going to do is make a part 2 video, and what we'll do is we'll get rid of this coax, clean all this up a little bit, add some new coax, and then add a balun and do another VSWR test and see if we get that VSWR a little bit lower so it performs better as a receiving antenna. And of course, this also highlights one of the dangers that when I sometimes do a Wi-Fi scan with an antenna, it doesn't give you the whole picture, because a quick Wi-Fi scan is just looking at receiving only. There's no transmitting going on with a scan like that, and you know, an antenna with a high VSWR, you just wouldn't spot it doing something like that. But yeah, it's an interesting design, and as I say, I'll make a PDF. It'll be below for you to download, but there's definitely going to be a second video for this where we make improvements to this antenna, shall we say. So if you did enjoy the video, please give it a thumbs up, comments or questions, drop them below. If you've got any ideas on what kind of balun I can use for this, I mean, there are a few options, then let me know in the description, and you might see it in the next video. So if you did enjoy the video, again, please give it a thumbs up, share it. If you want to help me get stuff like this in for us to take a look at in the future, then please feel free to pop over to Patreon to support the channel, and hopefully you'll join me on the next one.